I'm so sad because my AirPods case got ruined, and I'm sure someone else.
Okay, so we have Cups and Chris.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm just in an airport, so I'm not on camera. Walking through the
That's
airport.
okay. That's all right.
Getting there.
How
Hey
are
guys,
you
how's it
guys?
going?
Good. How are you? How's your
Oh, not
week?
too bad. Not too bad. Nora, are you Reem and Aya teaching today?
It's me and Sadallah and Riemann A as input because Brandon won't be able to attend.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Well, I think we can begin, and whoever joins in, we're just gonna like catch them up. But I don't think we need to like take the whole hour today. So we're just gonna like talk about some things that we probably talked about before. But mainly it's going to be around a a proper LinkedIn strategy to make sure that you align with your audience and your customers and, you know, speak to the right people. So I don't know if you guys remember, but Brandon mentioned like a couple of weeks ago something about having three main topics when it comes to your thought leadership on LinkedIn, and sticking to these three topics in order to be consistent and make sure that you align with your audience. Do you remember something like that happening?
Yes, I do remember that.
Okay, well, my question for you guys today is, do you have your three topics?
And I left. Yeah, it's a hard question. I had to leave. Right. I know for myself, I'm sorry, I tried to close my door, it didn't close. I'm just gonna
It's
do
okay,
that.
go ahead.
So yeah, so for me, and these maybe these are too broad, but basically, I post about really activity within the trade show industry. So whether it's stuff that we're doing or if it's kind of observations about things that are happening and working, maybe that's too broad of a brush, but obviously that's my industry. So fortunate that I've got the ability to kind of lean on visuals, you know, pictures of exhibits and things like that, which makes it easier and helpful and hopefully more impactful. I also do, I think, you know, when we say thought leadership, I talk about just kind of leadership in general with regards to, I guess, somewhat more generic business types of things. So leading a team, or, you know, how to keep up your, you know, your mental, you know, your mental side. And then I do lean into kind of just being a likable real person quite a bit. So I don't know if we'd call that kind of like a topic or a pillar, but I come to the table, I think, with a fair amount of, you know, family pictures and or day-to-day life kind of stuff, and try to relate that to either business or current events. With the Olympics going on, you see a ton of stuff, you know, it's ripe for all sorts of conversations about, you know, leadership and how it takes hard work to, you know, achieve your dreams and all. There's a lot of different, you know, storylines that you can kind of weave in and amongst that kind of stuff. So that's been kind of cool. And I think when you have something this global happening, it's kind of neat to kind of be able to lean into that, because it's like a shared experience, right? Most of you guys are over in Cairo, yet you're experiencing at a different time, but we're all experiencing kind of the same thing together, which is really neat. So actually, in reality, there's very, very few things that would happen like that would be on such a global scale. So it's kind of nice opportunity to take that.
Yeah, well, when you mentioned that you talk about like your family and your personal stuff, we call that very simply humanity. And this is one thing that is like very important that a lot of people often miss out on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be all about business, because your humanity is when you show people you're vulnerable, you're relatable. So humanity is a very important topic, and it's usually like our fourth topic. So we choose three topics, and then the fourth one is usually your humanity. Um, but Chris, can I ask you, like, you said that you have kind of like a broad topics. Um, were you able to create subtopics from those broad topics? Did you think about it?
Um, I I didn't think specifically about it as in, making like a written list. I probably should, because I think within the trade show world, there's a lot of different directions it can go, right? So a lot of it is pretty pictures. I can post pretty pictures with booths,
Mhm.
and that's all well and good. But then there's, actual strategic planning. There's management of logistics, which can be a nightmare. Identifying with people's pain points, which is everything is so expensive and it's stressful. So there's a lot of, I think, things that I could probably do a better job of maybe doing a deeper dive into each one of those. So I guess your question is underneath, let's call it those three topics or three kind of pillars, then having subtopics underneath that. Is that kind of where you're going with
Yeah.
that?
So
Okay.
so this is something important when it comes to like being consistent with your content on LinkedIn. So when you have three topics and each topic has, let's say, a minimum of like 4 or 5 subtopics, you have a good variety of content, but you're not all over the place that are people are like confused about what you're posting when you're posting it. So what we're encouraging is have 3 main topics that you always talk about, and then from that main topic have 4 or 5 subtopics to keep you consistent and to also give you like a variety of information that you can put out to the world. And when you incorporate those with different types of LinkedIn posts, like articles or videos or polls or pictures or carousels, so when you incorporate those with those, it's a good mix because you're putting out a variety of topics in different formats, and that LinkedIn likes that. Like when you're consistent with the type of post that you're posting, usually your engagement drops because you're not, you know, giving it anything new.
Mhm.
So it could drop your engagement. So one way you could think about it is having your main 3 topics and then having subtopics underneath each one of them that aligns with what you want to say, who you want to say it to. That's a very good plan for your LinkedIn content. It's a good strategy.
Gotcha. Can you use an illustration, or I'm such a visual person? I think I probably see most of Brandon's posts daily. What he puts out there on a regular basis. Can you draw, just so I kind of get the understanding of under one topic can come up like 4 or 5 kind of some of these subtopics? What does
So
that
I
what does that
can,
look like?
so what it looks like is kind of like you have, because it's all under the umbrella of thought leadership. So you're establishing yourself as an expert and a thought leader. So it's all under the term thought leadership. And then you have your 3 main topics. So it's kind of like a tree. So you have your thought leadership, you have 3 main topics, and then underneath each topic, you have 4 or 5 subtopics, and you have a huge variety of content. And then you incorporate that with different types of posts, as we mentioned, videos, images, carousels. So when you put all of that together, that's a very good content strategy. And I can actually like draw up something for you and send it to you on the chat on LinkedIn, so you can visualize it better. But it's going to be like an upside down tree or like an upside down pyramid where you have your thought leadership at the start, your 3 main topics, and then you have your branches, which are your subtopics. So I'll definitely prep something for you guys and put it up in the chat on LinkedIn so you guys could like see it better.
Okay. I like that.
But
I'm trying to envision it all kind of falling together.
yeah,
So
I'm a visual person too. So when you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was a tree.
let's draw a tree, like a Christmas tree, right? With ornaments, and then all of the little ornaments underneath the bigger
Yes,
ornaments,
yes,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Okay. Something to that effect. Okay. So
Yeah.
and Cups, I feel like I'm hogging this up. So if you want to hop in and make this more, your dial it into you. But if you don't, I'll just gobble up all the resources for myself.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess I'm starting to shift my thinking away from the topics are there and the subtopics. I mean, that's just what we live. But I'm going to start following a pattern of the types of posts. One type of post would be a lesson. One type would be a champion, and that's champion an idea that I know my target audience would appreciate. And then customer success is kind of the same thing. And kind of using that framework to rotate the content message. Because I feel like if I'm always talking about productivity, it just kind of like what you said with LinkedIn de-engaging you. I mean, if I use the word productivity 4 more times in a post, I'm going to vomit, So I'm just trying to figure out a way to make it more relevant to the viewer, and it'll allow me to change up the tone too if I follow that kind of lesson, champion, and customer success model. So this is just me putting my brain on it. I haven't actually executed this.
But that is actually a very good point you just mentioned, which is tailoring your content according to your audience. So this is something very important that you need to think about, because we put out content that we enjoy or that we do or that we like, but we also need to think about the receiving end. So is this something your audience wants to see? Is this something your customers wants to see? Is this something that they need? Is this information that they need to know? Or is my product something that they need to have? So this was a very good point, Cups, that you need to tailor your content according to what your audience needs. You need to keep thinking about that while you are creating any type of content on LinkedIn. Aside from like the more personal posts, because with personal posts or like posts that have more humanity in them, everyone can relate to them anyway. So you're probably going to get good engagement. But when it comes to posts that are like more business oriented, you need to always have your target audience and customers in mind when you're tailoring the post. So that was a very good point, Cups. Thank you for pointing it out.
Yeah, I like that. Lesson, champion,
even a blind squirrel
success.
Sometimes.
Well done, Cups. Well done. There you go.
Yeah. So
you get partial credit for being the instructor today.
Yeah, exactly. The personal post. This is just probably a long-winded question, but it's interesting because it does get better engagement. But what's really interesting about it, I think Brandon said it a few months ago, that people see it more than you think they do, even if they don't engage with the posts. Because then when you see them, I mean, I walked into a meeting in Milwaukee yesterday, and I wasn't wearing my sling from my shoulder, and the guy said, "Hey, Cups, you've got your sling off," and I was like, "Dan, he didn't engage. He doesn't engage with anything on social, but he's a customer, and I guess he watches what I'm doing." Yeah, which is kind of interesting, right? It's disappointing when we don't get more engagement, but maybe we just got to keep motoring on, right?
Yeah, we call those lurkers. So just because they don't do anything on your post does not mean that they did not see it and relate to it. But again, this is gonna come from their fear of like commenting or interacting. They don't want to say something wrong. They're maybe too worried about, like, they overthink any kind of interaction online. So they usually just lurk. And when you meet them anywhere, like in an event or in a meeting, and they start telling you like, "Oh, I saw on LinkedIn that you posted blah, blah, blah." Well, you could have very easily engaged with it, but this is something that they just like, they don't really do. But again, your post is in front of these people, whether they engage or not, it's there. So this is going to fall under the umbrella of consistency. So because you are consistent with your content and you're consistent with your posting and your commenting and your engagement, it keeps you in front of the people you want to be in front of. So that's awesome, Cups. I really like that.
Yeah. The other question I have for the group, and Chris, this may pertain to you. When you were talking about your topics, I was thinking about, what could Chris post to a marketing person that knows they have a big event, in 6 months or something like that. And I was thinking, could you work backwards and say, if you've got a big event in 6 months, here's what you need to think about, in month 3, month 5, month 6, whatever it may be. But I was thinking about when you were saying it, and then I was trying to relate it to me. Okay, if somebody wanted to get return on investment for, what we do with our decision intelligence platform, but I walk them backwards to say, essentially, Chris, to say your decision needs to be soon. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah. You need to decide yesterday. No, that's great. And
Yeah,
we
exactly.
actually have a illustrative kind of infographic that we created because post-COVID we were finding, and still now, I mean, it's still relevant now, like people just aren't leaving enough time to do the project properly. And that's exactly how we build it is we go show date and we start backing up and we hit all of the things. And ultimately we've kind of created like a 4-month roadmap, right? So that's 16 weeks, 4 months, and that's way more than most people are gonna want to give it. So I know sometimes we overcomplicate things and think everything needs to be like rocket science. We really got to drill down and find the but simple stuff, right? The simplicity of those things is important, and that probably would be a great post. Is just like, hey, if you've got a trade show, here's what you need to, how you need to back up from that show, and handle your time so you can do that.
Well,
That's
and
a good idea.
And that's what I'm thinking about. I was talking to the same customer yesterday, and they have a goal of getting our system implemented by the first of the year, so they can impact next year's, cost model. And maybe I need to be posting about, hey, if you are worried about 25 and your operational cost, now's the time to act and to be running when you hit January, so to speak, is what I'm thinking for my stuff. It may not align with yours, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
So similar,
how
that
your
sounds good.
customers feel and what are their pain points? These are always good topics to talk about because they show you as someone who knows what they're doing, and they kind of offer your services in like incognito mode. So I'm not really selling you anything, but I'm telling you like I know what you need, so I might be able to help you. So understanding their pain points and talking about what they need, these are two topics that will never, like, you'll never run out of ideas when it comes to these two. So those are very good points.
Yeah. And Cups, I don't know what your ICP looks like from a persona standpoint, but I saw, and certainly the team here, I'm sure, can back this up, is that Gen Z, even more so than millennials, they're not even Googling stuff anymore or going to websites. They're literally going to social for their research.
Yeah.
So having a presence. I saw a statistic recently, which I shared with my leadership here, but it was sizable, like 27% more or whatever would just literally research on social. And I know my kids are like this as well, as opposed to even going to to websites. So by having a presence, and I'm kind of preaching to the choir, and I'm giving myself the same type of motivational talk that we all need because we want results to happen. But I am a firm believer in this long-term brand building, endless game process of just be consistent, put the stuff out there, because maybe tomorrow, maybe 6 months from now, somebody's going to, on socials be researching, like, who do I go to for productivity, or who do I go to for trade shows? And we're going to pop up because we are consistent. We're bringing that, that message forward on a regular basis.
Yeah, that brings up I think you're right, Greg. Chris, that's incredible. The social thing that you mentioned, and I'm so glad SEO is dead. That drove me crazy. The way that Google only rewarded high payers, right? So
right.
the
pay to play.
But the interesting thing about that, and this is to the group, Nora. I'm beginning to be more and more worried about my content. Is it tagged right? Does it have the right metadata to be picked up by AI? So as Search GPT, which OpenAI announced this week or last, I forget when it was, one week. And, and Bing, if you ever use a Bing browser, I don't really like it, but I check it out every now and then. It's starting to really put AI at the top of the search list. So how do we make sure our posts are, if we do an article on LinkedIn, just general, if I have a white paper, how do I make sure it's in the the universe of AI tentacles, so they can grab it. If they're looking for the topic of decision intelligence, they might grab my content, right? So,
well, let me tell you something that we always say, like, internally. The best thing to know about AI is to ask AI. So if you want to know how to create content, or how to what kinds of keywords you need to use, what kind of relevant and popular hashtags you need to use, you just need to go in and ask the AI. And it's probably like the easiest and simplest way to do it, because AI it has access to a lot of different things that not necessarily we as people would have access to. So when you go in and you say, for example, I'm writing a post about productivity, and I want this post to attract the attention of my ICP, who are and then you write in your ICP. What kind of hashtags and keywords can I use to make sure that I show up in front of these people? And the AI is going to do a little bit of research, and it's going to give you your answer. So research through AI is something very important when it comes to wanting to put yourself out there in front of a certain type of audience, and also make sure that you are seen by the people you want to be seen with. And another thing is inside of LinkedIn, there are different ways for you to be able to put yourself in front of the right people and make sure that your content speaks to who you need it to speak to. I know hashtags on LinkedIn are kind of frowned upon. Like, some people don't use hashtags at all. But when you use hashtags and people search for a topic, or they're searching for a certain article or an idea, and you used the hashtag, let's say productivity, your post is guaranteed to show up because you have it hashtagged in your post. So it's kind of like you're highlighting this word in your post. So hashtags are a very easy way to like show up in front of different people, because you're not just going to write productivity. You're going to write productivity, you're going to write time management, thought leadership. So anyone who searches any of these keywords, your post is going to show up in front of them because you're highlighting this keyword using a hashtag. So hashtags are one way to do it, which is like, and also it requires like minimum research. So if you go in LinkedIn, if you go in ChatGPT and you simply ask it, what are 5 or 6 relevant and popular LinkedIn hashtags related to this topic? It's gonna give you 5 relevant and popular hashtags related to this topic. So it's that easy. It's really that easy. And this is how I personally research anything that I want to put out on my personal content. Or if we're doing something for Brandon, me, and Aya, this is what we do when we want to put out content, hashtags for Brandon's content. So we just ask the AI, because the AI knows AI best.
Okay.
Great idea.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that. Just because you said to trust the AI, which I don't know that we should, but I'll trust it for this. I sent me 10 ways to get your content ready for AI, and one of them refers to other kind of optimization platforms like SEMrush and Medium. I heard Medium the other day. Is that something? Do you guys know what that is? Is that related to LinkedIn?
I'm not familiar with that.
Is that a
I'll-
company name
when
or
I'm-
a platform?
I think it's a platform. It's the person I was talking to yesterday said he was posting something on Medium, and I didn't know if it was a subset of LinkedIn or maybe it's a completely separate platform. So I'll go look at it. But when I get connected, Nora, I'll send this prompt and answer to the group on this Teams channel.
Okay, sounds awesome. Yeah, and I'm gonna do some research about that Medium, because I like how the website looks like. It says human stories and ideas, so that's nice. But I've never heard of it before, so I need to do a little bit of research. Okay. So what else can we talk about? I think I mentioned all like the highlights that I wanted to say. So make sure you identify your target audience. Make sure you have your 3 topics and their subtopics, and mix that in with like good content types and format. There is another thing. So I guess you guys heard Brandon say creating demand instead of it, instead of capturing demand. So we say that a lot. And one of the ways that you can do that is through educational content. So educate your audience on something in your industry that you think they might not know. So we have an often misconception that just because I know this piece of information, logically everyone would know it. That's not necessarily true. And a lot of leadership actually falls because of that, because we have the prerequisite of like, oh yeah, this makes sense, so everyone should be able to do it. Well, that's not the case. And most of the times that's not the case. So educational content is a very good way to create demand, because you're putting yourself out there as someone who knows what they're doing. I'm educated enough about this topic that I can put out this type of content. And the more you get questions in your comments and you reply to them once the post is live, it increases your engagement, and it makes your post show up in front of more people. So if you put out a piece of educational content and people start asking questions in the comments, go in and answer right away, because that pushes your post in front of more people because it's active engagement. So educational content creates demand. Thought leadership and industry insights, they create demand. And your CTAs should always encourage interaction. So they shouldn't be like generic, like, oh, what do you think? Drop a comment below. That's very boring, because people sometimes some people like to say what they think, but other people are afraid to say what they think. So that's not really going to encourage people to interact. But your CTA should be always personal, relatable. Think of it as, if I see the CTA on a post, I would comment. So flip it around and think of it, like, oh, I'm scrolling through LinkedIn. I saw an interesting post. I don't really know what to say. So the CTA that is written pushed you to actually comment. So when you're creating your CTA, think of it like that. Like, if I see the CTA, I would definitely interact with this post. So educational content, CTAs, we already talked about like thought leadership and the industry insights. Leveraging LinkedIn features, so the hashtags, the groups, the different types of posts that you can put out, and focus on the value. So instead of we want to be consistent, but we don't want to just throw out content for the sake of throwing out content and, being there. So we need to make sure that our pieces of content provide value, and, they fill in a gap. They give a new take on something. They answer a question that is heard a lot. So each industry has one question, or like, not necessarily one question, but like some certain questions that people ask all the time when you meet them. So when you're in a meeting and people ask you something, think about it of, oh, this is good content, because if he has that question, how many other people would have that type of question? So answering questions in your industry is a very good way to like establish yourself as a thought leader and an expert, because it shows that you are focused on the value, you're providing real life examples. You can lean in on, like, I was in a meeting with a prospect, or I was in a meeting with a client or a customer, and this question was asked, and my answer was blah, blah, blah. And this is like engagement. It's a real life example. So you're adding a type of value that not a lot of people would put out there. So we said educational content, thought leadership, features, and focusing on value. Do you guys think I'm missing something? Like Reem, Tadallah, am I missing something? No?
I think that you covered all.
You covered it all. And if I might add something,
Sure.
the
I
power,
love that.
the
I've
power.
been talking for like 34
I
minutes.
know. I've been trying to like help you out, but I'm finding the perfect time. So the power of the CTA, it's actually like huge, and I've seen a lot of CTAs that don't do anything, and I've seen a lot of CTAs that does a lot of things. One thing I would like to like highlight is actually talking directly to the audience, not just like in a very vaguely like, if you were in my place, what would you do? No, it's actually more of putting the reader in the situation, and you're morely directing the whole post to him specifically, like what would you do? And one other thing is that other than talking directly is actually mentioning something that you didn't mention in the post, which is, would you like be open to other solutions? Like, would you have another solution for that issue, or do you have a similar success story you can tell me about? And this is actually like the open questions that you actually ask through the CTA actually gets the reader to talk more. And that's the kind of CTA I've actually seen work a lot. One other thing is actually the joke CTA, which is, I'm not saying that throwing jokes here and there during your posts on LinkedIn is always a good idea, but if there is a chance that you can actually joke around and like be a little bit funny in the CTA with your audience, can get your readers actually like engage more from the fun side, because it just puts less stress for the reader to comment and not be afraid of sounding anything, but it's a fun content. And now this works with some posts and other posts which is very very business related or like very very educational. I don't think joking in these posts would be a great idea, but I think if there is a post that it can actually like, you can stretch it into like adding a joke or like adding something that is a bit funny. um, I I say that just take this chance.
Awesome.
Good input, Reem. Thank you. I had a question. You guys all are kind of working on fist bump and helping people like Cups and James and so forth, and obviously Brandon. A couple of questions, and this is just kind of strategic on like how do you plan the week? And let's just use Brandon as an example because he's very visible, and he's not here, so talking about him behind his back feels pretty good. So when you map out his week of like, what are those posts going to look like? I don't know if you're creating them well ahead of time, but it looks like the dad jokes land on Fridays. That's kind of, do you kind of try to dial in things that are like on Fridays, people are kind of in this jovial mood, right? We're going into the weekend for the most part. Hopefully we're fairly happy. We had a good week behind us. We're heading into a couple of days off, doing something light and a little, call it fluffier or more humorous or something like that on a Friday is timed. But obviously that content is seen other days of the week, right? So the, I guess most interaction probably happens within the first 12, probably most interaction happens within a couple hours of the post going up, and then maybe within the next 12. Every now and then I'll get somebody commenting on something that's 2 or 3 months old, which is kind of cool. But I was just kind of curious of what your philosophy was there. And also just to parlay that into, we've read that executive C-level, director level executives are spending more time on LinkedIn on the weekends because they're not as busy, right? And it's an opportunity to kind of scroll and catch up. So I think there was a sentiment a while back that weekend content could be a little bit kind of looser, but kind of liking the idea of keeping that pretty well dialed in business commentary, because we know that higher level people are going to see it and consume it on those weekends. You guys are thinking about those things as you're laying out the plan for the week, I'm sure.
Exactly. So what happens is we have certain things that go out on the same day every week, like the dad jokes and his Jeep thoughts. So these go out every week on Friday, and I'm so glad you caught that, because that means we're doing it right, because that's the point. For people to like expect that Brandon would post a dad joke on Friday and wait for it so they can comment on it. So that is one way when we're creating the content strategy, that is one thing we focus on, is having a day where we have a consistent theme. So it's either a themed video or it's a themed piece of content like Brandon's dad jokes, but we have one thing that is consistent every week so people would anticipate and wait for it. And you mentioned the weekends as well. So we're kind of strategic with the weekends. We do one personal post and one business post. So on Saturdays, we post a more personal post because, it's Saturday, as you mentioned, people are scrolling through their LinkedIn because it's their weekend, they're a little bit free. So we put out a more personal post because if people see it and they feel like they relate to it, there's a good chance they're going to visit Brandon's profile and look at the rest of his posts. And the rest of his posts would be his posts from the previous week. So they would be more business oriented posts. So I don't want to call it clickbait because it's not really clickbait, but it's part of the strategy of putting out a personal post on a weekend. We want people to see that and say, oh, I relate to that. Let me check out this guy. And then they go into his profile and see all of his business posts that were posted throughout the week. And on Sunday, we do a newsletter. So we used to do the newsletters on Tuesdays, but we switched it out to Sundays. And the reason we did that was because Brandon was researching and he told me exactly what you said right now, is that business owners usually have more free time during the weekend. So that's when they check LinkedIn, more consistently. So we started putting out the newsletter during the weekend. So it could be a type of like educational content. We keep it to like 2 minutes, a 2-minute read. We don't post anything longer than that because we want it to be short to the point. And we create a short caption for it that just talks about like the main points that are highlighted in the newsletter. And the whole point is we just want people to click on it, skim through it for like 2 minutes, and then get a great idea or comment or feel that like they relate or like we solved the problem or we answered a question. And then they start commenting on Brandon's post and saying that, oh, this helped me in 1, 2, 3, or this highlights 1, 2, 3. And I agree with that. So the weekend strategy is one personal post, one business post, because we noticed that, like you mentioned, executives and business leaders, they usually check LinkedIn more during the weekends. And then throughout the week itself, we have a mix of business-oriented posts, and we have business posts with a personal twist. And then we have we can put out one personal, like very personal post during the week. So usually at the beginning of the week, and this is something me and Aya worked on together when she first started with us, is we planned the week with the first, like Mondays and Tuesdays are usually business-oriented posts because it's the beginning of the week. So we're talking more about business-related stuff. We're helping someone with a problem they have or an answer to a question that they might have. And then once we're moving out through the week, we're going in more personal. So Wednesdays and Thursdays are kind of more personal posts with a business twist. So it's a personal picture. It's a personal message that relates somehow to business. And this is when usually Brandon likes to incorporate pictures of his family. So he usually talks about like a trip they had together or a hike they went on together. And we kind of curveball that into a business-oriented post where we talk about leadership, we talk about teamwork. So the plan is like beginning of the week, business-oriented, and then when we're moving throughout the week, the more personal we get until we reach Sunday. And then Sunday we put out the newsletter and then we start it all over again.
One post a day, or every now and then a couple of posts a day, or what's
it depends on what Brandon wants. Like sometimes we post once a day, sometimes we post twice. And we were playing around a little bit with the algorithm the past couple of weeks because I'm 100% sure like LinkedIn is playing around with their algorithm because a lot of people have been complaining like their posts are not getting good engagement. They're not getting the engagement that they're usually get. So I'm sure they're playing around in the background with some of their algorithm. But when the morning post doesn't do well or doesn't really get the number of engagement that we want, we usually push out a second one. And most of the time, the second one does better than the first one. But once the second one starts picking up, the next day, the first one starts popping out in front of people because the second post of that day did well. So it starts pushing out more of Brandon's previous posts. So that is one way to like hack the algorithm.
Is it still kind of the thought of folks like you who are kind of in the know and know a lot more than myself, that if you are in the habit of posting multiple times a day, that you're actually competing with yourself for those views, or are you thinking that that's not necessarily the case anymore?
I don't think that's the case on LinkedIn because I see a lot of posts on my feed that are like a couple of hours, like it's the same creator, it's the same content creator, and it's like they're a couple of hours apart. I think this is related more to Instagram and TikTok because I know in TikTok's algorithm, if you post like 3 times a day, usually one of those videos does really, really well, and then the others can flop because you're posting like that's why they usually creators on TikTok, they like split their videos into parts and they post them in different days to drive
Right.
engagement, to keep the audience on their toes and like wanting more, and to make sure that all parts don't flop. Because if one part does really well, then the others probably won't show up. But that's more like a TikTok thing. I don't think that happens on LinkedIn, to be honest. But Aya and Reem, correct me if I'm wrong. No? No one thinks I'm wrong?
Everybody
No, you're
thinks you're
doing.
right.
No, you're doing. No, I agree. I don't necessarily agree with the part where I am competing with myself because each post has its own audience and each post has its own algorithm. However, double posting, just like Noor said, getting engagement in general will get more chances for people to visit your profile and for other posts to be seen and get more impressions and engagement from other audiences. So double posting is actually not not a bad idea. It's actually a good thing to do. But the whole thing is actually not double posting with the same scheme, like posting the same like 2 success stories in the same day. If someone's seen your first story and they will just get bored of the second one, they're just gonna skip it anyway. So try to have like different posting within the day. So one person, one business, one success story, one solution, one educational, something like that. Just mix it up, just to make sure if one audience seen 2 posts, they're not just gonna steer away from your profile saying that you post the same thing over and over and over again. And
That's a great
I
point.
actually I want to actually add something up. I've read an article on LinkedIn stating that LinkedIn actually has a fixed schedule types of posts per week, and usually people fall into the scheme without actually noticing it. And if I go through the posting, you will resonate with it like highly. For example, like every Monday, I am sure you guys see the quotes, the inspirational quotes, like "Hey, happy
Yeah.
Monday." Yeah, so everyone does that. Everyone does the inspirational quotes, and usually also they post about client success stories on Mondays. They share testimonials, they share insights or like challenges they face with the clients, and it's always a success story. Usually people post these on Monday, and they do well because it's the beginning of the week and everyone wants like this kind of energy. Everyone wants actually positivity within their week, and this is how we're all driven without even noticing it. Like we're all trying to channel this energy on Mondays because let's be honest, no one likes Mondays. But uh, back to my point, which is we don't like Mondays, but we always try to channel the positive energy through LinkedIn. So posting a success story or like something related to you doing well on Mondays is actually like a spot on Monday. And then usually Tuesdays is actually more of the deep post, which is like which is related to very like complicated business story or educational post where you're gonna merely talk about business only. And the article actually said that it's Tuesdays are like they're very popular with talk to me Tuesdays and something like that. It's more of let's discuss business, and usually people does that on Tuesdays. Like Ark said that there's no like it was just like a mere survey they've given people. I'll try to find this link actually that had the scheme of LinkedIn. And then on Wednesdays, usually people need to back up. Okay, have a safe flight, Michael.
You guys have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye bye,
Bye.
Michael. Bye, Kat. Usually Wednesdays are actually for like personal stories and like fun team engagement activities, because I don't know why, but it's shared between people that when there's a team activity, it's always on Wednesdays. I don't know why, but it was written in the article that it's always a Wednesday. I don't know why. And then again, circling back to Thursday, Thursday is usually a thought leadership video or like a promotion or something related to business. And then Friday is a very light post, which because it's Friday, they're happy that the weekend is tomorrow, so it's a light post. It's something that summarizes the week, something very light. And then just like Noor said, on weekends, one business and one personal.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great to kind of take a peek at that. So what you're saying, Reem, is like if this is the trend, we should lean into the trend because it'll help promote us. Versus, I know sometimes it's like if everybody's doing this, then go do that type of thing. But you kind of want to
do it your way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a very nice sentence. So everyone's hopping on the same train, but you're the only person who's going to be able to do it your way. So having your twist on something that is trending, that is like the best thing you can do, because you're according to, like, you're doing something that everyone's doing. So it's a trend, everyone's doing it, but you have your little personal Chris touch to it. So it makes you unique, even though you're doing something that everyone's doing.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm digging the background vibes there, Reem. I feel like I should call the rest of my day off and just go like hang out in some sort of cool lounge with great greenery around me.
It looks like I'm in the Maldives, huh?
Yes, it does.
I'm just in Cairo.
All right, well, I've got some great notes from today. I'm looking forward to Noor's drawing of the tree or the upside down pyramid with 3 topics and all the things. I'm looking forward to that. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Right,
this has been great. I feel like this is like my own personal training group today.
Yeah, see?
I just keep showing up.
But I had fun, you guys.
Same
I
here.
had so much fun.
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, hey, I don't know if anybody's been in touch with Joshua Carlson. I reached out to him because he was always there, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. So he's got a bunch of stuff kind of going on in his world. I asked, "Are you still doing?" Like, I don't know if he's officially still in the group or not. It sounded kind of like he is, but he just doesn't have time for it right now because he's kind of in between businesses. The company he was working for is going under, or he's buying it, and he's trying to build something else. So there's just a lot of stuff there. I wasn't sure if anybody here had spoken to him.
Yeah, I noticed that he stopped showing up, but I did not think of like messaging him. But I hope that he's seeing like our YouTube videos, because we push these videos out on YouTube and also on the community channel, on the community website. So I'm hoping if he has time, he would be able to see them.
Yeah,
I'll message him and make sure that everything's good.
Yeah, just check in with him. I think he was certainly enjoying what we were doing. So I don't think it's anything other than just a lot on his plate right now.
Yeah,
of course.
So,
hopes everything turns out well for him. Cool.
Yes, exactly. All right, guys.
Have a great
all right.
weekend.
Have a great weekend, Chris. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.